what a group to talk about the freest market out there, cryptocurrencies, and all the good and bad that comes along with it. So I want to thank Josh for inviting me out here. He asked me at a meetup I held a couple months ago if I would come and do this, and I said, why not? And that was when NFTs were kind of like in the main spotlight, and also when Bitcoin was at its last previous high, which got beat today. Woo! So yeah, really psyched to be talking about fake internet monies that are becoming realer and realer, and about the freedoms that they can offer, and about the ways that they can empower individuals who are creators and artists who have historically been screwed by third parties who just want to make money off of them.
What are NFTs?
So an NFT is a non-fungible token. I will go into this. I have prepared this presentation for somebody who has never heard of any of these three-letter words that are put together.
Nice.
So let's first start. How many people here are familiar with Bitcoin and Ethereum and cryptocurrency?
Yes.
Okay. And so most of us don't need that. This is what Bitcoin is. This is what Ethereum is. Okay. Sweet. So then this slide is effectively useless, but I think something that's really cool is that there are 6,600 tokens and cryptocurrencies that are out there today.
Different ones?
Different ones, yes. So this is the Wild West. You have to be diligent about the shit that you get involved in, because there are people out there that maliciously, or just by them not being able to double check the things that they do, that can harm your funds. So why am I up here talking to you guys about NFTs? I'm obviously not an artist. I don't know how to code. And I feel like this is the strangest group to say this, but I used to work for the government. Yeah.
But not anymore.
I used to care. I used to have I used to think that there were these things called urban planners that were necessary to help cities, grow. And I worked. Right, dude, exactly. They got us in grad school with all this passion, and then we went into the real world and realized how useless it all was. So I've worked for multiple governments, county, state, federal. That was that. I got super bored at my job, which is why I started studying cryptocurrency. And eventually I left that field after a nice little magic mushrooms trip, actually. So I now write for a website called Neo News Today. Jokingly, I am a Neo shill, but I got excited about a project and decided to go knee-deep into one project as opposed to becoming an expert in other projects. And somebody's been doing this every day for the past 3 years. Some days I wake up and I still feel like I don't know shit. So don't ever listen to anybody who ever says they're an expert, because they're lying to you. So I write a lot of articles. I've written 1,200 articles. I also host a podcast. I get to talk to people all around the world. We just hosted our 5-year anniversary podcast that Neo's been around, my 50th episode. It was pretty sweet. And I also host meetups, which in the before times I was doing on a monthly cadence, but I do not anymore. But we're looking to fix that. So it's nice to be back here and kind of like shake off the cobwebs. Other cool things I do is I try to engage and empower developers. We are a validator on our network. We receive an income, and part of that income we use to invest back into grassroots developers. So this is a screen of a bunch of code. I don't know any of it. Whenever I'm interviewing these guys, I'm just nodding my head and shaking along. But the person who gave us this hour-long demo that we're recording and we're going to put up on Neo News Today, ex-Microsoft vet, 20 years, and decided to leave Microsoft and go into blockchain. So there's something here, there's something brewing, and it's not just all-time highs, which we saw today. Again, awesome. So, again, how did I get into crypto? I moved to California after going to graduate school here, and I loved urban planning, and then I went to California, stopped loving it, but started loving rock climbing. I went to Yosemite, and I went on a week-long trip one day, and I was like, how the hell can I do this for the rest of my life without coming back broke and broken? So I started researching, investing, saving money, all that good shit. And everybody's saying Bitcoin's a scam. So of course, when people tell me something that I'm not allowed to do or that I shouldn't, like, I'm gonna go learn about it and start doing it. So I started learning about Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, Ethereum. Back then, 2017, CryptoKitties were clogging Ethereum and the network was becoming impossible to use. So I was like, this isn't the future of finance, like what the hell? So I started researching other projects, and through Shapeshift, a company that was born in Colorado and had awesome ethics until it had to comply to the whims of the government or else they'd be jailed, made it possible for me to buy a bunch of cryptocurrencies. And one day I got this one called Neo, and it started giving me gas just passively. Holding this one coin gave me another cryptocurrency, and I was like, what the hell is this? Let's go. And that was it. I was off. Also, this is El Dorado Canyon. I love going climbing out here still. So what's Neo? You know, it's the green pill. You got to take it if you want to join the smart economy. Neo launched in October 17th, 2016, the official mainnet. We just celebrated 5 years, which in cryptocurrency speak is basically forever. It's been an awesome and wild ride. Currently, they're building their third iteration of the network, whereas Ethereum has been mind-numbingly slow at releasing just the second iteration of its network, but that's good. A lot of people are using it. I'm not shitting on Ethereum at all. It's a victim of its own success in this way. What Neo did in its third iteration started to integrate other things that were very useful for decentralized networks. Distributed storage, competing with AWS. You know, we do not want one entity owning our own data, and there's got to be a better way to do that. Now we can use a peer-to-peer network similar to what Napster provided in a way that people can upload files and pay for access to those using cryptocurrencies. Oracle networks were embedded directly into the blockchain so that the blockchain can communicate with the World Wide Web and basically take live information off the internet and integrate that into the code on the blockchain. And then we just have a badass suite of tools. Multiple languages you can code in. I haven't met one developer who's built on the new version of Neo that had anything terrible to say other than scraping your knees and figuring those things out. But then the thing that really got to me, as urban planners, we cared about the economy, we cared about the environment, and we cared about social equity. Well, Neo gives a shit about the smart economy. So like, what better way to make people's lives better than by making economic processes that improve their lives and give them their own power over their own funds again? So in this 5-year episode that we recorded, I asked everybody, what's the smart economy? These are developers, these are guys who could be doing anything in the world. Some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And they've been building this fake internet money network for the past 5 years. So I listened, and a lot of the things that came out of this were like, borderless and permissionless transmission of value. Why should a bank allow me to move my money wherever the fuck I want to move it? It's just not the way that we should be working in 2021. We're taking out bureaucratic intermediaries who essentially just take our money to use their networks. And this is criminal at this point. We're living in a time when El Salvador just adopted the Bitcoin network. These old financial institutions are outdated and are robbing us. There are new protocols that can empower users. Like, you're losing your money to inflation by keeping it in the bank. With your savings account, you're getting robbed because inflation is not transitory. It's like continuing to get worse, and they're lying to our face to make us feel better about this. There are DeFi protocols out there where you can get 40 to 300% yield on your digital assets. And the thing you have to trust is code, not people. Reducing irrelevant necessary workforces. Somebody I interviewed said that a $1 billion company needs a company managing $1 billion will need 1,000 people working for them. A protocol managing $1 billion only needs 40 coders at best, if that. So you can choose to share your data with whoever you want. These projects are going to start communicating with one another as all these new networks start to pop up and arise. It's going to be beautiful. And then lastly, building blocks. Like, we need to make it possible for people who want to build in these networks to be able to take what has already been done, replicate it, make it better, and then apply it to their project. Which brings us to this talk, non-fungible tokens. A lot of people might have heard about ridiculous prices that were spent on pieces of artwork, and that might have been the first time you ever heard about cryptocurrency or NFTs. But this simple graph right here represents what the difference between tangible goods and intangible goods are, and then fungibility and non-fungible goods. So like a tangible good that is fungible is gold. 1 ounce of gold equals 1 ounce of gold. That's that. It's always going to be like that. A tangible physical asset, or that's not fungible, is like a piece of artwork or your really nice car. There's only going to be one of those. So as we're going through this presentation, just remember that. A non-fungible token means it's one of one, and it cannot be replicated and traded for anything else. Yeah, absolutely. I want to even break it down even more simply. Like all an NFT is a string of alphanumeric numbers on a blockchain network associated with a source file that's uploaded to AWS or a decentralized storage network. That's it. It's just a string of numbers on a network and then a backed up source file in a centralized infrastructure. There's nothing too complex about all these when you just try and think about it simply. But there are charlatans out there who will try and confuse you and try and trip you up. So again, the hash, this is what it looks like. All a hash is it says this transaction on this block can be verified on the previous block or on the block after it. It's just a string of numbers that help the blockchain understand what has happened and when and who has sent what to who, using other alphanumeric numbers as your wallet address. So unless you dox yourself or you say what your address is, nobody really knows who you are until you give that information away. But the thing I love about NFTs, and I think that will hit home with this crowd, is we're removing people who try to put their thumb on the weight of our life, on the scale of our life. We have these third parties that, be they banks, be they music managers, be they anybody who's taking a fee out for us sending our own money and using our own goods in the way that we want to. These are the people that we get to eliminate using NFT technology. So, a perfect example, a brand new artist who's going to get screwed by the contract that they get signed into, they can instead release their own albums as an NFT, and they can also bake in royalties, so every time that NFT is sold representing their album, they get a portion of that. That's not the case with any popular artist we've ever seen. Look at all the dead artists whose artwork is worth millions of dollars. Those guys never saw any of that. They lived in squalor and did whatever it was that they did to keep themselves inspired, but the thousands they spent on their materials, they never got to see the millions of dollars coming back from the people with the wealth who were buying them. So, cool. We talked about the technology. We've heard a little bit about NFTs. Why would anybody want to collect a string of alphanumeric numbers that are associated with a source file on some sort of centralized database? Well, why would anybody want to collect baseball cards or Beanie Babies or Pogs if you're from my time frame generation? It's because people like to collect stuff. I don't know who this Paul Bragan fella is, but I pulled this quote from an article he participated in about trading watches in his watch collection. And he said the 20 watches in his collection he calls a mechanical art. So these collections, these collectibles that people, they have this sort of intrinsic attachment to it. They kind of love the things that they're connecting. And when you start to put love into things, then you can start to really let the value of what people are willing to spend on it go up. And the pandemic was phenomenal for collectibles. It's insane. All these people that got to keep their job, they had all this money that they weren't spending on driving places, going out to eat, going on vacations. So we saw things like baseball cards go up 142% in value in 2020. Just in the first half of 2020 alone, we saw a 25% increase in what people were willing to spend on these expensive watches. I mean, I know some folks who have some really nice cars, Lamborghinis. These things were stores of value for the past year and a half. If you bought a Lamborghini, you could probably sell it for a little bit more than you bought it right now, if you bought it a year and a half ago. So we're starting to see these collectibles kind of, with all this money that's out there and like free for people to spend, we see this is where it's going. Probably also why we're seeing Bitcoin go up, because people have more faith in code than they do in some banker who's printing a bunch of money and from an institution who's still asking us to pay for shit with our taxes.
Yeah.
So Switchio is a really cool project in the NEO ecosystem. It's what's called a decentralized exchange. This means that there's no central intermediary that is holding your assets. If you trade Bitcoin for Ethereum, you're doing this on their back end through their own liquidity pools that people like you and me have provided. Switchio has been around in the NEO ecosystem for a long time, so this is why I'm happy to kind of lift this quote from this really great NFT article that they released recently that basically taught people how to look at these new NFT projects that are popping up, things like CryptoPunks and Bored Apes, and I don't know, there's people have been printing pictures of stones and then selling them for millions of dollars. It's kind of stupid, but you know, free markets. The thing I want to lift out of this whole word vomit is, in their report they said that art and culture are becoming irreversibly entwined with blockchain technology and on-chain ownership. So we're starting to see this world where we can take this intangible feeling that people have around art and music and the things that they care about and pour themselves into, and now they can own their output. They can own their deliverables and choose who to sell it to and on what terms they want to. Over half the world's population has access to the internet, and that number's only growing. It only makes sense that these free markets, these free networks, are going to allow people to empower themselves economically by coming up with new ways to fund their ventures. So, are people really buying NFTs? Yes. They're spending stupid amounts of money on this shit. The first 5,000 days sold for $69.3 million earlier this year. This 16-bit image sold for $11.8 million. This is called a CryptoPunk. In 2017, these things were printed out for free for anyone who had an Ethereum address, and all you had to do was claim it. So there are 10,000 of these, and keep in mind the limited number as we continue to go through this talk. But then there's also really cool artwork, like this piece, Oceanfront, sold for $6 million. Now, we're starting to say, like, why are people spending this much money on these silly pieces of artwork? But there's also really cool things. Sir Tim Berners-Lee wrote the World Wide Web code. He did this open sourced and gave it to the world and did not receive a cent. Whereas companies like AOL, Google, all these entities that have just basically like controlled our lives and our access to this free market that was open sourced and created for the people by a person who didn't receive a single cent off of it. I had to quit Facebook because my data is being sold, I'm being tracked, I really can't stand it anymore. And that was just me stopping the damage that's already been done. My information is out there, my data has been sold, I'm a part of toy databases, housing databases, anything that they can use my data to sell to me. They have hundreds of points about what I like. And that kind of sucks. So Sir Tim Berners-Lee created an NFT representing the source code for the internet and sold it for $5.43 million. Like, pretty sweet. This guy who came up with this thing that we use every day didn't make any money off of it, finally got to get a little bit of financial compensation offered to him through the power of what NFTs can offer. And then there's Jack. He sold his first tweet for $2.9 million. Like, this is clear that this thing is still not perfect. Like, people like this guy can still make $2.9 million, but like the person who created the internet can also still make funds off of this. So just like the Wild West, we have these good and these bad actors, things that are good and things that are bad. So it's up to you to arm yourself with the knowledge to be able to wade through these markets and things that are available. So again, as I was saying, all an NFT is a hash, a bunch of alphanumeric numbers stored on a blockchain, and then a source image, usually stored in a centralized database. So one of these NFT artists decided he was gonna basically fuck with people. He sold a series of NFTs. We can see on the left, that was an actual piece of art that he created. And then after somebody bought it, he changed the source image on the centralized database to a picture of a rug. Now, this term getting rugged in cryptocurrency basically means you invested into a project and the owners absconded and took all your money. You got the rug pulled out from under you. This happens all the time. It's kind of sad, really. But again, the freest market in the world, anything can go. So he said, I just pulled the rug on my NFT collection over on OpenSea. Nobody got hurt. It's pretty easy to change the JPEG, even if it does not belong to me or it is not on the auction. I mean, I'm the artist, my decision, right? And when he puts it like that, it starts to become this like ethical question that you really do have to ask yourself. Like, did this individual just help you participate in art? There was a guy at Art Basel who ate a banana off a wall and made money off of that. Like, was that art? I don't know, but people like it. So we see these silly things being sold for millions of dollars. We see great causes being sold for millions of dollars. I thought all of this was stupid until somebody made an NFT series of me. And then my ego was, scratched. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to own all this now. So what the series is there are these individuals in the Neo ecosystem who have been around a long time, and these guys made 4 NFTs for each of these people. And as we can see here, there's a white one, the Ice Dylan, the blue one, the green one, and the pink one. So in order to incentivize people to buy these, there is a quarter of the private key stored on each NFT, where if you collected all 4, then you would be able to get the golden Dylan. You'd be able to get the golden NFT. So these fuckers got me. They're like, you need to get all these if you want to get the golden Dylan. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be the chump who doesn't get this. They honored me. So I spent $370 on these 4 things, plus $85 in fees. And now I'm the proud owner of the golden Dylan. And I set a floor, basically. Like, I participated in this market, and now these things are not going to be worth less than $370 to me. So this is where you start seeing a market kind of popping up. You start seeing a floor. Like, if you want to buy these 4, like, give me $500. Like, now I get to start playing the game. But that's kind of like an ego thing. I don't think anybody here is going to have, maybe you will, I don't know, I don't mean to offend, but I don't think anybody's going to make an NFT about you and sucker you into buying all of them. So what's really going on? Why are people buying NFTs? Why are these markets starting to pop up? Like, why now? Why? They've been around since 2016. CryptoKitties clogged Ethereum in 2017. Like, why 4 years later did people start giving a crap? And basically, I think this chart explains it all. This is the Ethereum price chart for the past 2 years. We can see where we can barely even see the blip of what happened to COVID, and then we see what happened afterward, which is these massive spikes. So essentially, if you got into Ethereum early, and I'm talking real early, today it surpassed $4,000. If you were buying Ethereum at 13 cents, at $1, you were probably collecting massive amounts of ETH. So what better way to flex how smart you were by buying cryptocurrency before everyone else than spending 500 ETH or 60 ETH on a silly little JPEG? It's a way for OGs to flex their crypto gains. But there's more than just number went up and people want to show off. We have NBA Top Shots that signed a partnership this year where they're releasing series of NFTs. We're seeing brand names get involved into this game. So while we have price go up and people willing to spend, we also have this new market that's coming in from what the crypto folks effectively call normies, which are just people who don't know everything about crypto or try to. And then we also saw this growing collectibles market in 2020. Like, people had money, they wanted to spend it, they had disposable income, unless you were forced out of your job and couldn't pay rent. But this is also a separation of class almost, because we're starting to see people who can afford these things versus people who are worrying about paying their rent. But that's another story and has so many other elements. But I think ultimately the thing we should highlight is artists want new ways to monetize things. Athletes want new ways to engage with their fans. Musicians want new ways to be able to share their music and not get screwed by the people who force them into terrible contracts. But let's also be real. Look at all these names, like when Snoop Dogg and Kings of Leon and William Shatner are talking about NFTs, their fans are learning about it. Like William Shatner's 90 years old and released an NFT series. We have Mark Cuban, who one day he's making an ass out of himself and the other day he's crypto savior. We have this guy going on and talking with people, showing what he does and doesn't know. Eminem, Rob Gronkowski, like even Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan are making NFTs. So Immortal Technique once said that there's a market for everything. You can even sell, magazines about pet psychology to people. People will buy this stuff. Steve Harvey, he bought one of these CryptoPunks, or a Solana punk, which was a knockoff, and made it his Twitter handle. So we're starting to see these mainstream success. We're starting to see people with money who are willing to spend money on this. We're starting to see new people come in according to that mainstream success. So why are certain NFTs better than others? We start looking into the series of NFTs that are being released. A big thing right now is these algorithmically designed NFTs. So you'll have 20 different hats, you'll have 20 different shirts, you'll have 20 different ways that the eyes look, 20 different ways that the mouth look. And with that, you can multiply them across each other and create these algorithmic new ideations of these same 20 different features that become unique. And if you do the math right, you also have 10,000 new characters that you can sell to people. So, like this Bored Ape thing in the upper right-hand corner, people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on these, and there's like 10,000 of them. But they have crypto wealth to flex, and they want to do it. This Pudgy Penguin is another one that just popped up earlier this year, and it itself has a bunch of people spending so much money on it. Well, why? Why aren't people spending 20,000 ETH or like $100,000 on my NFTs? I've got 4 of them, and I got the Golden Dylan. Like, what makes these better than mine? It's effectively a network of curators, and it's a network of individuals who form a community through Discord, which is a chatting application, through Telegram, which is another chatting application. You get these communities of individuals who effectively buy these, and then they have this unspoken contract where they're not going to sell them. They're just going to instead start marketing them to people. I got my Pudgy Penguin. Like, why doesn't crypto Twitter personality 420 have one of these? And then they start goading other people into getting them. The higher you go up onto the crypto Twitter status with more followers, the more kind of I can't think of the right word, but you kind of get this authority that these are the projects you should start investing in. So the rarity of the project, effectively, are there going to be 10,000 or are there going to be an unlimited amount? And the amount of people who are willing to enter into chats about this. So CryptoKitties was probably the first time you guys ever heard of an NFT, if you didn't even know what an NFT was. And people loved this. You could make these cats and their characteristics would create new cats, and it clogged Ethereum to the point where something we'd never even seen in 2017. But it didn't really take off. There's not millions of dollars in these CryptoKitties. And the one thing that they did wrong that other projects are doing right now is you can make these cats unlimitedly. So there was no level on how many there were. So you can't create this, whether it's real or whether this fake supply-demand model. You have this supply that continues to grow, and the demand can wane any day now. Maybe you get rug pulled, who knows? But there's so much more to NFTs, and this is why I love what I do. Every single day I wake up, I have to learn about a brand new thing I've never even heard about, and then just know a little bit more than the person who's reading our articles. And a lot of these new projects that are coming into the Neo ecosystem, this brand new architecture that just got released, a lot of these new projects are coming in and they're trying to offer more. So when we look at the video game industry and what people are willing to spend on skins, and all a skin is just, if I have a character in a video game and I want to change the color of my arm shield, I can download a skin and then upload that onto my character. Well, we start talking about these massive online games that lots of people are playing and they want to differentiate themselves, they want to be cool. They're going to start spending $400 on a sword in order to kind of look cooler to all their online friends. We have these new digital lands that are being created where people are willing to buy plots on a map in order to participate in that, whatever it might be. Some of these lots are being sold for 10 ETH at a time. And again, ETH is worth $4,000 right now. So that's 40 grand for a little pixel on a map. And then this planet. This planet's part of a game. It's called Planet Calypso. I don't know the game. I never played it. I'm never going to spend $6 million on it. But hey, someone else did. NFTs can also be used to represent ownership over real-world items. This is a psychedelic image that was made in addition to a home that some guy was trying to sell on an NFT selling platform. A real estate broker named Shane Dolgaroff. He was trying to take advantage of the hype this year, tried to sell this house in California for $117,000. Like, no way that was going to go down. But he associated a piece of artwork, and he was also going to put the deed to the house as on the NFT, which, again, an NFT is just a hash on a network with information stored on a central server elsewhere. So he tried to sell it for 48 ETH, 117 ETH at the time, didn't sell. Tried to sell it for 520 ETH, didn't sell. Again, a free market, nobody gave a shit about this, but it could happen. And then this is possibly the coolest thing ever. Who here knows about the Wu-Tang Album that Martin Shkreli bought 2 years ago, or 2015? All right, so Wu-Tang, phenomenally awesome hip-hop group. They've been around since the 90s. They're known as saying Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
And they're not. So they decided, you know, they have all this notoriety. They've been around since the 90s. These guys have probably been fucked over by managers, by the people they signed deals with, and they were tired of it. So they said, we're going to release an album, and we're only going to sell 1 out of 1 to the highest bidder. The highest bidder ended up being this guy named Martin Shkreli, who became famous for jacking up the price of AIDS medication, and then ended up getting indicted and sent to jail for doing insider market fraud. As part of his way to pay back his debts to society, he had to sell his assets. And one of his assets was the $2 million Once Upon a Time in Shaolin Wu-Tang album that he purchased. Somebody in the Rolling Stones magazine that came out today said that the Wu-Tang album being released 1 of 1 to the highest bidder, this was a protest against value being stripped out of music and the digital landscape. So again, we're empowering people using these brand new open networks that nobody can control. We're empowering people to explore new ways that they can motivate themselves, incentivize themselves, get themselves paid, and not have to give away their hard-earned dollars to some mooch or leech on society. So today, Pleaser DAO bought this album for $4 million. Pleaser DAO is a group of internet strangers who pooled all their money together, and they decided that they want to purchase pieces of artwork that they deem valuable to society. So this is a group of 70 individuals. These are the leaders. You can see a shadowy figure in the back because this is crypto. You know, you don't have to share your information if you don't want to. And they bought the album. And then they put the deed to the album as an NFT. So now, anytime this physical album crosses hands, there's also going to be a digital certificate that is forever created on an immutable network that can never be removed that goes along with this. So now, if this gets stolen and found 20 years later, the owner of this artifact has the digital certificate that proves it was theirs. Other really cool ways that we can start integrating NFTs in day-to-day life is through Internet of Things, IoT. all Internet of Things basically is we're going to create ways for my refrigerator to talk with my grocery store so that when I'm out of carrots, they can communicate with one another and then send over the autonomous vehicle and give me my carrots, and we'll use cryptocurrencies to pay for each one of these transactions. The Internet of Things is connecting everything. It's creating ways for infrastructure to communicate with one another. And once we have these networks, we can start thinking about Internet of Things with Airbnb. So instead of having to use my credit card, which is owned by a bank, which is going to screw me over if I miss my payment, I can instead say, I want to use my cryptocurrency to pay for an NFT, and this NFT grants me access to this house for the amount of time that I said I was going to stay there. And then once the NFT runs up, I can no longer access the house. We can do this similarly with rented vehicles. I don't know if you guys have ever done peer-to-peer renting of a car, but Turo is a service, and I've rented some guy's car for a day and then gave it back to him all through an app. So we can figure out ways to remove banks, remove these outdated credit card rails, and start using new technology. But there's also like really kind of nerdy ways that you can engage with them. So some guy who loves Neo figured out ways to scrape a bunch of information from the blockchain and created a website around data and statistics. And in order to garner a community, he created an NFT, and if you own one of these NFTs, you can gain access to the VIP site, the VIP portion of his website. And I mean, maybe you can see this, maybe you can't. Not to knock Neo Dashboard, the guy who made this, but it's like not super sexy. It's just kind of, I can guess how much Neo's going to be at the end of the month, and maybe I'll win. There are some clues I can look for. Maybe I can win something. But what it's starting to show is that this is the beginning of people being able to empower people who participate in their networks and on their websites by giving them access that only they can access if they have this thing. So today it looks like a scrappy, just put together website by some guy who probably speaks English as his third language. Tomorrow, who knows what it could be? Cool. We like NFTs. We want to buy one. I want a pudgy penguin. I have $40,000 that I don't know what to do with, and I want to speculate. How do I do that? It's, as much as with everything in life, it's really simple, even though the steps and the processes might be difficult. There's really only 4 steps that you need when you want to buy an NFT. You need to go to an exchange and get some cryptocurrency. Then you need to send that cryptocurrency to what's called a web wallet, which is a wallet on your browser that stores your crypto for you. Then you go to one of these marketplaces, OpenSea, or I'm going to show you guys Ghost Market in a minute, and you use your web wallet that holds your cryptocurrency to purchase things on this website, and then you bid. You say, I'm going to put my 400 ETH on this thing, and I hope I win it. So if we're talking like $400,000, this next point isn't going to matter to you. But if you're a normal person who's not steeped in millions of dollars in ETH, you need to watch out for fees. These networks are permissionless, they're open, they work on supply-demand. So if a network has met its output with the amount of people who are trying to conduct on it, you're going to have to pay more to use it. There's only so much throughput, and there's so many people who want to use it. So you could get screwed on gas fees. I mean, on the Dylan NFT series I was showing you, I paid $85 on $370 worth of purchases. So be wary of gas fees, but again, the process is simple. Get cryptocurrency, send it to a web wallet, go to an exchange or a platform that sells it, and then bid on it. And then you can start showing off on your Twitter account that you spent $400,000. So, kind of like wrapping this up, again, I cover one blockchain in particular. There are 6,600 out there. I'm the official shill of Colorado. I'll take that badge. And there are cool things that are happening right now. And luckily for me, or unluckily for you, you get to hear a guy who can talk ad nauseum about it. But luckily for me, there are some cool examples of what's happening. So, think what you want of the name, but this game is called To the Moon. It takes place on the moon. So at least they've got that saving grace. But this is like a Pokemon-style game that interacts with the land that you own as well. So you get all these characters over here. They all have a certain way in which they interact with the land. And then on the land, there are things you can buy, like a water station or a well or an army barracks or anything like that. Each item and each character in this game is represented as an NFT. So we're moving into a world where you get to actually own a character in the game, and if you're done playing the game, then you can sell it on the free market to somebody who's willing to buy it. And then, like, these characters have different characteristics. I don't know how deep of a gamer some of us aren't, but if you really give a shit about the game that you're playing, you're going to be willing to spend a lot of money on assets that will help you progress. HumSwap is a new project that's launching on the ecosystem. It mixes NFTs and DeFi, and DeFi is a whole new term that I'm sure some of us do or don't know about, but basically it stands for decentralized finance, and we're making a way where I can put up my cryptocurrency and allow people to trade between it, and then I'm going to receive fees for putting up my capital, my own collateral. So that's what decentralized finance is. It's peer-to-peer. It's people putting up their own cryptocurrency for other people to move or to borrow from, and I earn interest on this, which is way more than 0.5% that the bank is giving me. So HumSwap sought to do something new and unique. How do we integrate this new NFT phase into our DeFi platform? Well, if you hold certain NFTs, maybe you'll get a multiplier for the rewards you receive for staking your own capital. Or you can also play like silly little games that give you other rare NFTs, that give you other access to new things on the platform. They haven't launched yet, so we don't know what this looks like in real world, but this is being made by two dudes from PayPal. So we're starting to see this succession of people from traditional financial institutions, and PayPal is only like 12 years old, maybe 15, but we're starting to see these minds move from this institutional sort of, I need to work here in order to make my living, to a place where they're coming into a free, Western, kind of like Wild West world, but they're able to make their own, work within their own parameters and make things that could have an exponential value. This one I'm really psyched about. It's called Rent Fuse. Basically, it's giving you the ability to rent your NFT to people in a way that you don't lose access to that NFT. So let's say I want to defeat a monster in a game, and I have to buy this $1,000 sword. Well, you know, I just write about fake internet money. I'm not a millionaire. How am I going to afford a $1,000 sword? I'd rather just rent it from the guy who has it for $20 for the 2 days I need it. This Rent Fuse protocol is making it possible for them to still have access of the NFT, the actual hash and source image, but they let me use it for the time that I need to use it in the bank to defeat the monster. And then lastly, Ghost Market is one of these platforms where you can go on and you can buy NFTs. And as you can see, some of them are really cool artwork. Others of them are new series that are popping up where people are trying to jump on board to the NFT series and kind of make a little bit of scratch. But why Ghost Market is really cool is because it connects multiple blockchain networks. It connects Ethereum, Binance, Neo, Phantasma, all these different networks that do not communicate with one another right now. Now is a central platform where you can put NFTs on any of these networks and start to be able to trade in between them. Okay, that was a lot. These are important links. This is the end of my slide. You can find me on Twitter, shit posting every day, but also giving really good information about the project that I work on and just trying to help people find answers to their questions. Neo News Today is the website I write about. Meetup.com/NeoColorado is my meetup group. Again, I'm shaking the cobwebs off, so we're going to start having more of these as time goes on. Now that times are, they're not normal, but we're coming back. And then GhostMarket.io is the platform where you can mint an NFT. And I don't know if you guys want to see a live demo of me making an NFT. All right. Well, would you look at that? I already have it ready to go. Crazy. Wow. And what is this? Okay. So this is, where's my mouse? What's going on here? All right. So, this is Ghost Market. This is the website where you can buy crypto to mint NFTs. And minting an NFT just means you put it on the blockchain and you stored the source file where it needed to be stored. You can choose between the networks that you operate on top of, and you can just simply drag and click your NFT, or the image that you want to turn into an NFT, into this little box, and it happens. So the image I'm using was the rock climbing photo that I showed you of me in El Dorado Canyon, and we can see that it was uploaded and put into this little screen. We can choose what collection we want it to be in. So if I'm making a series of Dylan climbing rocks, like, people are going to love that, right? Yeah. I'm going to make a lot of money on each one. I'm going to make my own series. Billions. Here we come. I'm the new Facebook. So I'm going to name this Liberty on the Rocks. I'm going to give it a description. Here you can choose, like, let's say I'm an artist. Like, let's say I made a really popular song, and I want the world to have this. But I want people to be able to own it because my fans love me and they want to own, like, certain pieces of unique collectibles I create. I can bake in a royalty right here. So the second I mint this NFT, every single time it's sold, from person to person after that, I can choose what percentage of that sale I want. On average, we're starting to see 10% on pieces of artwork, around 2 to 3%. If it's around 5% or higher, you're going to start seeing these market forces that play where people don't participate. But for music, 10% seems to be kind of normal. But I don't want to rip off any of you who might buy this. So we're just going to do 0 royalties, and we're going to do a 1 out of 1. And here I can put attributes in. As we start moving forward, you might want to have attributes. If you start to have series, you start to integrate this into your own applications. You want to be able to pull specific attributes that you can call for on the blockchain in order to integrate with the NFT. I'm not going to do any of this. I'm going to embed the link for tonight's meetup on here. So if you own this NFT, you're going to be the only one who sees this web link. And this is where we start to see what's possible. Like, maybe I create an album, and this web link is where you can go to gain access to that album. And then that's it. It tells you right down here how many you're minting, what type it's going to be on what network, and the total cost it's going to be. So in order to do this, to participate on the Neo network, it's going to cost me $1.15 to mint this. But I think it'll be worth it, because people are going to love the Dylan rock climbing series.
Shit, yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, I just said make my NFT, and my web wallet, which is in my Chrome browser, asks